Laurel, hello? A woman's excited voice shouted into the phone. Don't you recognize me? I don't understand. Laurel frantically tried to remember the voice, which was familiar, but... Oh, it's me, Rachel Arnett. The woman who had called spoke even louder into the receiver. Laurel, you are really something. I'm your classmate, a school friend. Have you already forgotten me? Oh, Rachel! Laurel rejoiced sincerely, saying, I just didn't expect your call. Sorry, dear. Your mum gave me your phone number. The former school friends chatted casually. The last time they saw each other was at graduation. After, Laurel left her village to conquer the capital, and Rachel entered the regional college. 15 years had passed since high school, and they never met. Laurel came home and Rachel was away, or vice versa. Then they became even more distant. They each had their own lives. Rachel had been married for a long time, worked in one of the gymnasiums in the region. They had 2 children already. As for Laurel, she was still alone, just like before. From time to time she had relationships, but they didn't seem to work out for some reason, and she was already over 30. Laurel, our classmates want to have a homecoming, Rachel suddenly said, as if, by the way, will you come? Laurel got excited and said, yes, of course. The friends talked over the details and agreed to call the next day. Laurel happily hung up the phone. It would be interesting to see her classmates. But then she felt a pang of insecurity. Rachel said that Code became a businessman. Kelly was working in the regional administration and others were doing well. And she was almost a loser. Sure, she studied in the capital and works there, but what's the use? She has no place of her own and no family. And she's always getting reprimands at work. Of course, among her classmates, she's not the least successful person. There are worse people who even drank themselves to death. But all of Laurel's friends are quite successful, and they've all had families and children long ago. And suddenly Laurel felt so sad. Why does she need this reunion? She'll refuse. It seems to me that you're worrying about nothing, objected her colleague Monica, who was also Laurel's best friend. Husbands, children, that's not the most important in life. And by the way, they don't need to know everything about you. You live in the capital. You work for a cool company. Trust me, they'll be jealous of you. Laurel only sighed. I wish. Besides, she wasn't in an excellent mood. Her mother had given up lately. She was in and out of hospitals. She wasn't an old woman, but she had a disease. Her heart was bad, and she had diabetes. Laurel was always on the phone with her mother, sent her money for medicine, and often stayed with her on weekends. Nevertheless, Monica convinced Laurel not to give up the reunion. So, at the appointed time, Laurel was going to the station to go home. She was even in a good mood. She would soon see her mother, that was the main thing. And it had to happen that on the way to the station the cab broke down. In order not to miss the train, the girl decided to hitchhike. Literally in a minute, a luxury black car stopped nearby and the driver looked out. "Young lady, where are you going?" The blonde-haired man smiled welcoming. When he heard that she was going to the train station, he opened the door. "Jump in, I'm heading that way too." "I'll just take my bag." Laurel was happy and ran to the car. On the way, they got to talking. Dominic was on his way to the station to meet a work companion. "Without a ring," Laurel remarked to herself, "and handsome." The man also looked at her with interest, and when they arrived at the station, he asked for her phone number. Laurel didn't hesitate. They were both adults, so she immediately wrote it down on a piece of paper and gave it to Dominic. "I'll be sure to call you," he said, while looking at the girl so affectionately that she was even embarrassed. "Just not this weekend." Laurel came to her senses. "I'll be far out of the city." "I understand." Dominic pointed at the bag and with a look and asked, "May I help you carry it to the station?" No, Laurel was completely embarrassed. "It's not heavy." But nevertheless, Dominic carried her bag, and she was very grateful to him. Sitting on the train, she kept remembering her new acquaintance and smiling. He was a very interesting man. The homecoming was surprisingly fun, interesting and warm. No one bragged about their achievements. For one evening, everyone became equal. A businessman, a politician, a salesman, and a mechanizer. Laurel was glad that she had listened to Monica. No one dwelt on her marital status, but on the contrary, they praised her. "You are tenacious, Laurel. You managed to become a capital dweller. Well done." And only her mother once again was a little upset, looking even more aged and painful. "You, my daughter, don't worry so much about me." Her mother understood Laurel's thoughts. "I'll live as long as I'm supposed to, so why are you upset? You need to organize your life. Why did you send me money last month? You should have saved up for a mortgage. How long are you going to stay in rented apartments?" "Mum, don't start," Laurel cut her off. "I've been helping you, and I'll continue to do so. Where will you get money for medicine?" "I have a pension?" Mum tried to smile and say, "I'll manage." "Exactly," grinned Laurel, "and you'll only eat bread and water for a whole month." "Oh, my daughter, my good girl." Her mother hugged her. "You should get married. I want to see my grandchildren." Laurel smiled forcefully and then moved the conversation to the meeting with her classmates and her work. For as long as the girl could remember, she and her mother had always lived alone. Her father left the family before Laurel turned 3, and since then he has been wandering somewhere in the world. He did not pay alimony, and all her life her mother had been supporting Laurel alone. She worked at the post office, as a saleswoman, at cleaning. That's why, when her daughter finished school, her mother insisted that she should make her way to the capital to study. So Laurel did. Her mother saved up some money for her daughter's studies and gave it to her for living expenses. Laurel understood this, so when she started working, she always sent part of her salary to her mother. At first her mother argued, but Laurel persisted, and now, when her mother's health was completely shaken and she had to retire on disability, it was by the way. But the poor woman was still worried that her daughter was depriving herself for her sake. However, Laurel could not do otherwise. She was very attached to her mother. On Monday morning, Laurel was already at work. Monica was eagerly awaiting the details of the homecoming. "You see, I told you so," said her friend, satisfied. "I'm delighted that I listened to you," Laurel confessed. The friends laughed and hugged each other. She and Monica had been good friends from the very beginning, as Laurel got a job in this company, and for the last 2 years they had become best friends. Monica was also from neighbouring city, but her parents helped her buy an apartment, so she felt more confident in the capital. But her personal life was about the same as Laurel's. She had not serious relationships, but only fleeting romances. But Monica, unlike Laurel, did not dwell on it. She generally believed that until the age of 40, one should live for oneself. "Monica, what about children?" Laurel always argued. "Don't you want a little one?" "A child?" Monica snorted. "It's only a pretty picture, but in reality, just think, Laurel, how much money and effort are needed for them. If a millionaire comes along with me, then it's a different matter." "A millionaire?" Laurel snorted with a smile. "There are a lot of us who need them. Get in line." And in the evening, after coming home from work, Laurel got a call from Dominic. To be honest, she didn't realize who it was at first. There was so much communication during the weekend that she simply forgot about a random acquaintance on the road. They agreed to meet. The next day after work, there was Dominic's car outside the office, and Dominic was standing next to it. "It's for me," Laurel said something mysterious to Monica and went towards Dominic. Monica was a little taken aback and watched in amazement as a handsome young man opened the door of an expensive car in front of Laurel as she smiled back at him. "What a sly girl," marvelled Monica at the time. She's got such a boyfriend and not a word to say about it. I'll find out everything tomorrow." It was a wonderful evening. Laurel and Dominic sat comfortably in a small, cosy cafe, enjoying each other's company. Dominic revealed that he worked at his father's large enterprise and was unmarried. "It's hard to believe that by the age of 30, no one has caught such a promising man," joked Laurel. "There are so many beautiful girls around, especially at your work, I'm sure." "I agree there are many girls around," nodded Dominic, "but it always seemed to me that I had not yet met the only one." And he looked at Laurel so expressively that she was even embarrassed. Dominic then took her hand in his and gently ran his thumb over her fingers. He smiled and shook his head. "And let's go on the merry-go-round?" He dumbfounded the girl with his suggestion. "On a merry-go-round?" she repeated. "But it's getting late." "Well, the parks are still open. Let's go." Dominic looked at Laurel expectantly. Honestly, Laurel couldn't stand all these amusement parks, but she wanted to be with Dominic so much that she didn't want to disappoint him. In the amusement park, Laurel and Dominic immediately headed for the Ferris wheel. Laurel, however, had been afraid of heights since childhood and followed Dominic on cotton legs. "Are you afraid?" Dominic asked, surprised as they started to climb. "I, on the contrary, love heights." Laurel only nodded her head. From fear she couldn't even speak, and she had already regretted 1,000 times that she agreed. "What a fool I am," the girl thought. "Well, maybe I like him, but what if he's some kind of maniac?" "Laurel, I'm normal," Dominic said, seeming to guess her thoughts. "I just have a long-held dream, to ride with a beautiful girl on the Ferris wheel, and just such a girl appeared in my field of vision." Saying this, Dominic pulled a small box out of his pocket, opened it, and a dainty bracelet glittered in his hands. "I want to give it to you for good luck," he said with a smile, "and as my little rehabilitation in your eyes, because I showed up on our first date without flowers, and then drove you here." Laurel was surprised that the guy gave her a gold bracelet on their first date. It doesn't happen in life like that. But the pretty bracelet really shone on Laurel's wrist, and down below, the neon lights of the city shone. Afterward, they walked around the city at night. Laurel was a little shocked by everything that was happening. She had never experienced so many events in just a couple of hours. In general, she had never had such an emotional shake before. Yes, Dominic surprised her. Later at home, lying in bed, Laurel thought back to their walk. She remembered the Ferris wheel with a smile, admired the bracelet, and then suddenly realized that her life would not be the same from that moment on. In the morning, she woke up to a text message from Dominic. "Good morning. Have a lovely day. I'll be waiting for you after work tonight." Laurel smiled. Maybe he would take her to the merry-go-round again. With Dominic, she wasn't afraid. He seemed so reliable to her. "I don't understand," Monica wondered when Laurel appeared at her workplace. "How could you hide such a handsome man from me? Are we really friends?" "Oh, Monica, don't be mad at me. I just met him recently," Laurel explained. "And he took you to the merry-go-round on the first date like that?" Monica asked in surprise. "He's some kind of strange man." "I thought so too at first," Laurel admitted. "But after that, I started thinking differently. I felt so at ease and free next to him." "You are a bad psychologist," Monica said, shaking her head. "Next, he'll take you parachuting. Will you agree then as well?" "Perhaps," Laurel nodded. "I'm not the least bit afraid of him, Monica. I'm afraid to jinx it, but I think I've found my man. He's so wonderful." "In this case, I like your new bracelet most of all. It's obviously not cheap," said Monica. "Apparently your Dominic is really a worthwhile option." That evening, Dominic waited for Laurel near the office again. Later they went to a restaurant. Laurel was subconsciously waiting for Dominic to surprise her this time, but everything seemed to go quietly. It was only when Laurel closed the doors behind her after returning home that she heard a strange sound in the kitchen near the window. She opened the curtain and saw a bunch of brightly coloured balloons hanging outside her window, with the inscription, "Laurel, you are so cool," on one of them. The girl sighed happily. It was a crazy and exciting time in her life. She watched the balloons fly upward and thought about how amazing Dominic was and what would happen next. And then there was love. For the first time in her life, Laurel laughed so much and breathed so fully. Yes, Dominic was inimitable. Sometimes the girl wondered to herself, what does it mean, chance? What if the cab hadn't broken down when she was rushing to the reunion? Life was amazing. They met every day, but on weekends, Laurel still went to her mother's. She didn't dare offer Dominic a ride, and he kept silent. He drove her to the station, and that was it. Laurel decided that it wasn't the right time yet. 3 months had passed since the day they first met. One evening, Dominic introduced Laurel to his parents, and the girl realized the significant changes were coming to her life. The girl liked Dominic's parents. His father was serious and looked like a businessman, while his mother was soulful. They didn't care that Laurel wasn't from the capital. Her relationship with their son was more important to them. It was obvious to everyone that Laurel was in love with Dominic and listened to him attentively. Soon after meeting with his parents, Dominic proposed to Laurel, and they began to prepare for their wedding. They arranged everything, from guests to outfits. However, Laurel was concerned that Dominic hadn't met her mother yet. "Honey, you know she's very sick," Dominic explained. "We'll go see her after the wedding. Maybe we'll bring her to the capital and show her good doctors. I'm busy at work and the wedding is coming up." Laurel agreed. She called her mother to tell her the good news. "Daughter, I'm so happy for you," her mother said. "Of course I won't be able to come to the wedding. I can hardly get out of the house. But you'll come and visit me afterwards, won't you?" "Of course, Mummy," Laurel promised. "Thank you. You're not upset, are you?" "Why would I be upset, my dear?" her mother exclaimed. "I'm just happy that you've settled your life. That's the most important thing to me." Something about the situation made Laurel uneasy, but she couldn't figure out what it was. She decided that after the wedding she would persuade Dominic to meet her mother. After all, her mother had raised her and given her everything, and now she had found a rich husband and seemed to have forgotten where she came from. On the day of the wedding, Laurel was nervous. Her friend Monica teased her, saying she looked like a little girl. "I'm distressed," Laurel almost cried. "So many guests. There will even be journalists there." "So what?" Monica looked at her strangely. "Rejoice. You're now the wife of a rich heir." Laurel shook her head. She didn't care about being a rich man's wife. Half an hour before the wedding, Laurel was in the bride's room adjusting her veil when the phone rang. It was her mother's neighbour. "Laurel," the girl heard Mrs. Bezos' crying voice. "Your mum is not doing well at all. The ambulance came at night. They didn't take her, they only gave her shots. In the morning one more came. I don't know what will happen next." "So she's still at home, right?" Laurel's heart sank at the news. "Yeah, and remember, the ambulance wouldn't take her. They said they couldn't get her there. They need a special vehicle. So our mother is lying at home waiting to die," the neighbour wailed. "I'm coming," cried Laurel. She ran out of the room and rushed to Dominic. "Where are you going?" the groom asked indignantly. "We have a wedding in 20 minutes. All the guests have already arrived, even journalists. My grandfather has come all the way from France, and he hasn't met you yet. Do you understand what you're asking me to do? Laurel, don't get so worked up. Today we'll celebrate the wedding and tomorrow we'll go to your mother's." "So you're telling me that while my mum is dying, we're going to have fun?" Laurel recoiled from Dominic's words. In the next second, she broke from her seat and rushed down the stairs, still wearing her wedding dress. She threw on a light coat and her veil came off somewhere along the way. The guests didn't realize where the bride had gone, but Dominic stood white as chalk. Monica came up to him holding Laurel's veil. They both looked at each other, confusedly. But Laurel didn't see them. She was rushing to her mother. She caught a ride with a driver who agreed to take her straight to the house. Luckily, she had her wallet with her. Laurel found her mother at home just as a special vehicle was arriving. Mrs. Besso had arranged for it to be sent. "Mummy!" The girl rushed to the stretcher. "How are you, my dear?" "I'm good," the mother said weakly. "Why did my dear neighbour stir you up like that? Go! You have a wedding today. I'll be all right." "A runaway bride?" he joked, looking at the dress peeking out from under the coat. "I've never seen anything like that before." "Probably not a bride anymore," Laurel replied tiredly. "Well, it's all right," cried the paramedic. "If that's so, it's not meant to be." Laurel only looked sadly at him. It was easy for him to say. And Dominic, who had become her life, was that really the end of their love? But she couldn't have fun, knowing her mum was dying. "Don't worry," the paramedic said, as if reading her thoughts. "We'll treat your mum. Now we'll take her to the vascular centre in the capital. Believe me, everything will be fine. By the way, you can come with us." Laurel agreed, and all the way she held her mother's hand. The paramedic Will was very attentive. He spoke the whole trip, correcting Laurel's mother's drip and measuring her blood pressure. He did not even forget to calm Laurel down. At the clinic in the capital, Laurel's mother was admitted without any problems. The doctors only wondered why she had not been referred to them for treatment before. "Don't worry, Laurel, everything will be fine with your mum." Will said goodbye. "Where are you going now?" "I'll try to resuscitate my personal life," Laurel replied sadly. She dialed Dominic's number and he was silent. Then she called Monica. "Laurel?" Monica laughed into the phone. "Oh, you're really crazy. What a show you did." "I had problems with my mum," Laurel replied, not understanding such joy. "You don't know where Dominic is? He's not answering my calls." "And he won't answer," replied Monica unexpectedly. "Dominic is mine now." "What? Yours? Monica, what are you talking about?" "Well, you ran away from the wedding," Monica grinned. "But everything was already ready. The guests, the restaurant, and most importantly, Grandpa came from France. Dominic couldn't upset him." Laurel was shocked by what she heard, but demanded an explanation from her friend, and Monica told her something Laurel had no idea about. It turns out that Dominic had a rich grandfather in France who did not like the behaviour of his grandson. Dominic was extremely promiscuous. For him, relationships were always at the level of his bed. His grandfather accused him of promiscuity and said that if within 3 months he did not find a simple girl whom he would woo beautifully and surprise, he would disinherit both his grandson and his son. And then Laurel came along, and Dominic did his best. By the way, at the beginning of their courtship, they were photographed by a detective to prove evidence to the grandfather. And now was the wedding. It seemed that the case was done, but Laurel ran away. "You're just in time," said Laurel to her friend with reproach. "No, it's just your fool," Monica laughed. "Just to let you know, Dominic and I used to date sometimes." "Yeah, that's true. We always dated when you were in your village. He told me everything." "Oh, you're a naive soul. By the way, you know there is a wedding dress rental near the wedding site. So thank you, dear friend. Now I'm Dominic's wife." Laurel hung up the phone. Tears choked her. It turns out that everything was a farce, while she thought she had met true love. Laurel no longer sought meetings with Dominic, and she dismissed her job so as not to cross paths with Monica. Every day, Laurel visited her mother, and when she was discharged, Laurel decided to return home. Laurel got a job in the regional centre in a law office, and a month later she accidentally met Will, the same paramedic who helped her mother, and soon they began a relationship. 3 years have passed since then. Now, Laurel is on maternity leave. She and Will have a son growing up, and her mother feels better and helps Laurel with her little boy. And everything was well in their family. As for Dominic, he divorced Monica a month after the wedding and went abroad. Laurel was told about it by mutual acquaintances. Monica still lives, thinking that her beautiful life will definitely begin after 40, while Laurel no longer expects anything. She is truly happy.